Welcome to the S.O.C Show. I'm Fran Schoenenberg of Services for Older Citizens. Each week we bring you a half hour of something that we think is interesting to seniors everywhere and often to their families, in fact, very often. S.O.C is designed to help the older people in our 6 cities to maintain their dignity and independence as long as possible. You may have noticed that I try to do a lot of shows that emphasize maintaining our independence and dignity. S.O.C has a variety of services at its offices at the neighborhood club. They include minor home repair, food and friendship, which is a socialized meal, friendly meal with conversation and generally a talk afterwards during the weekday. It has information and assistance, which is one of the was the first program after the meals program. And boy, if you call S.O.C with a question on how to start out finding out something, you get wonderful results. It has care management, it has case coordination, and income tax services for simple income taxes, and a bunch of other things like the trips. I should interview that woman who takes people on trips on Friday. I was mentioning choices, and our guest today is going to give us another step forward into the choices, especially electronically. She's Ann Sadler, and the titles I took out of her resume were Professor of Geriatric Care Management, and she has been an administrator at several area hospitals. And I know at least 2 of the hospitals, and at one of them, I was hearing a lot about their excellent administrator, and I never even knew her name. I just knew she was said to be the best around. So, to her career, she's added an entrepreneurial aspect, and she wants to both show that to us today and keep on talking about choices and how we can find out the most we can to be as prepared as possible for whatever may come. You know, our older years will be so much simpler if we think ahead, and even simpler if we can get our kids to think ahead. So this is a crusade, as you've noticed. And Ann, to start us off, I told my son that I'm choosing to age in place at the moment. But there are dozens of variations of aging in place, I realize. And my kids and I are all exploring different ways to do it. Would you start us back, say, when you were going into nursing administration, what choices did the people who came in your doors, what choices had they had? And what had they done? Did they mostly come after falling down and breaking their hips, or because their minds were going in one way or another? Or did they have a choice and they chose your hospital, your nursing home?
Actually, Fran, thanks for asking that, and for the lovely introduction. I have to make one correction, though. I'm not a professor. I'm a professional.
Did I?
That's fine, but
yeah,
I think right. I'm a professor.
I'm sorry.
Sometimes I do a lot of teaching as part of what I do.
I didn't mean to say professor.
That's all right. I just don't want to mislead
I do appreciate
your group.
Yeah.
Actually, when I started out in 1984, working with seniors, in the Grosse Pointe and Detroit community, doing outreach and services to the community, there was not a lot of choices. There really were not. There weren't so many assisted living facilities around, And for the most part, once you couldn't stay at home, you ended up in a nursing facility.
Well, my mother did, and a lot of other people's mothers and fathers did.
Absolutely.
And we didn't know any choice. If the family could take care of it, care of the older person, fine. But in those days, as now, the person in the 40s and 50s is a generation in the middle, and so I had my little kids tugging on me, and my sister had her kids tugging on her, and the husband who says, I don't know how I feel about this, which is understandable, and it can be any gender, I realize.
Absolutely.
But there really wasn't much. My memory is
There
right.
were not a lot of choices, and in fact, people who ran out of money often would also end up in nursing homes so that they could take advantage of the social, assistance programs that were available at the time. And so a lot of people really, some of them had their health and their mind, but they had run out of money and ended up in facilities and institutionalized.
That really stinks.
Absolutely, and that's why I, decided to open up my own company and become a geriatric care manager and seek out options and services and help people to find out what those services are, to unravel the maze of senior services, as it were.
Can you help people without much money?
There are programs for people that don't have a lot of money, yes.
And you can point them in the right direction, or else maybe point out that they can do something, they can maintain a higher level than they thought they could with a little help.
Absolutely. There are benefit programs that go unutilized because the seniors and their families just are unaware. 30% of the people that end up in assisted living or nursing homes are there because of caregiver burnout and just a lack of information. And so my company, Smart Senior Solutions, we've decided to, look at how we can unravel that maze and bring everything to bear, not just benefit programs, but for example, when I assess a senior, I will look at, are they involved in a church? What's their community resources available to them? Can each of the children maybe only take them one day a week? What can we do to bring all of those things? Is there a church involved? Are there volunteers from the church that can come and spend some time and just shore them up enough that they can stay in their home? Sometimes it doesn't take a lot to be able to just give them that support, even if it's a couple. Sometimes you have a husband and wife, and one of them is doing all the caregiving. Just bringing a little bit of help to that situation can make so much difference between that person being sick themselves or having to put their spouse into a nursing facility.
Since I am now alone, I haven't given that as much thought as I should. It is starting to register in my mind, though, that we all age differently. Even if it's not at a different rate, it's differently. And somebody's got to be really clever to help that work. I think I might call a care manager if I were in that situation.
Well, I hope you'll call me.
Not getting married yet. But yes, you are on my list. I still
Great.
remember the first care manager I met she was around here, and it was probably 20 years ago. She was the greatest thing since sliced bread, I thought. I still think.
It's an underutilized, it's an emerging profession. AARP did a study back in 2002, and geriatric care management is an emerging profession. In Florida and Arizona, they're widely used to help care manage the